Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's. What is this? This is the Broiler Chicken Show. Back, 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 back. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Actually, it's good to see crypto's looking very uppy. We had our level 1 class program this morning. And it was nice to see in the background. We have a nice green screen. And, of course, I primarily, with this weekend show, I like to keep it sort of crypto-oriented. I suppose we were the level 1ers this week, and I had given them sort of a general message. I thought we had a really, really productive session today. Covered a lot of material. Of course, they're going through an extremely tough week. Sort of pulling the wool down from their eyes. This is what the real world looks like. I was showing them, it's always fun to show new people to investing and to trading. Which site is it that I was talking about? I think it's over here. Showing people this site. This is always shocking. So these are the kind of conversations that we're having in our school program right now. Trying to get our head wrapped around money and capital. There's cryptocurrency. Woohoo! And trying to convince students that, we love Bitcoin. It's totally awesome. It's the best. It's the future. And if it is indeed the future, what you're going to see is this get bigger and bigger and bigger and price go higher and higher and higher. And here comes $400,000 Bitcoin. And that guy's proved right on Twitter. And hey, we're all rich. Come on! I don't know whether that's real. I mean, if you got 5-10 grand, you're trading cryptocurrency, having fun in mom's basement, whatever kind of thing, $500 for that matter. It's cool to have that kind of life. And interestingly enough, I think we're actually starting to head back into that world for crypto. So get ready, folks. Next couple years, especially next year, right? If you can actually get all your house in order this year and actually watch as the public, in my opinion, is going to act like crypto did in 2017, but they're going to be doing that in the stock market. And you can slowly position yourself in good quality companies, try and buy where directors are long, that kind of stuff. Buy your cryptocurrencies, add value, right? Then when the stock market and classic investing falls apart, and people are scrambling for value, I think there's value in cryptocurrencies now. When I hear that companies are mining Litecoin at $100 a coin, and maybe they're horrible investment decisions. But then we have on the site, people are passing around information that the average miner's cost of production on Litecoin is $67 a coin. Well, for Pete's sakes, people, if it's trading, substantially lower than that, then, that's actually the whole sort of idea of, if you're going to invest in commodities, try and invest below the cost of production. Obviously this is a floating target, but we don't necessarily need to get into that. But I do think, and going back to Shane's Pluto Saturn cross, I don't know, call me nostalgic, call me pie in the sky, call me sentimentalist, but I really do believe that there's so many things that are coming together that really makes me believe that we're in some sort of transitional phase here. And, ironically enough, this is the only business when stuff goes on sale, nobody wants to buy. We have one site member, and I absolutely love him for it. I mean, he comes from the programming world, not site member, he's a principal at TRI, and my right-hand man. And he just believes in Bitcoin, and he believes in the whole model, and he's just put himself on a dollar cost averaging plan. And ironically enough, he's actually in there buying when everybody else freaking out. It's going to zero. And George's just in there slowly nibbling away. He believes in the story, and he's put himself on a plan. It's beautiful to watch him just execute. And there's no reason why anybody can't do that. it's, the weird thing about money management is it's so incredibly simple to say, yeah, just, don't take too much risk, buy weekly W's, that kind of stuff, right? So it's incredibly hard to actually execute this stuff on a consistent basis, year in, year out, day in, day out. Same thing, rinse and repeat. So, wow, there's a funny rant to start your broadcast off today. Sure hope you guys are, especially YouTube audience. I'm always worried about whether you actually feel like you're getting some sort of, after I watched this crazy guy's videos, actually I learned something and I wrote this down, so I'll sort of keep track of that going forward. That's really the ultimate purpose of these weekend shows, is my sort of karmic way to try and give back. Unfortunately, I'm human. I do inject a bit of opinion here and there. If anything, I actually even want to give just sort of a hearty thank you to the universe for even just giving me this opportunity. I'm very blessed. So, take what you can. My advice to you YouTubers, especially if you're watching after we've done the recording, is just put me on 2x speed, and then when I go through these crazy little spurts of rants, I guess you call them, you can always just fast forward through this, and then when I'm back to the chart, oh yeah, check out how to use this. It works really well. So big thank you to the universe. Really appreciate the opportunity. As I said, level 1ers just did their strategic planning, sort of strategic vision. Where are we in the big picture? So I kind of do want to have a bit of those kind of conversations with the audience today. So also, too, coming out of the class, remember I told everybody in class, whoever's watching this, that consider this the dovetail to today's class, because I thought we were having a really, really great conversation in the class today, because we covered some ideas that I hadn't reviewed in a bit, and it's quite shocking to actually see them play out. So that's sort of like bigger picture, long-term cycle kind of thinking. Demographics. Here comes Mr. Saturn Pluto himself. Hey Shane. So, not a bad idea just to sort of, try to get our head wrapped around this idea, and especially for the gold bugs, because what ends up happening here is, oh my God, there's so much emotion injected into this. I hate to sound terribly sexist, but I really do believe that this is a lot of sort of male ego. I don't see it so much in the female part of our species, but especially men in the gold space, the bravado is just shocking, right? And then I'm right and you're wrong and you suck and your ideas are worthless and invest in me and you'll make billions and all that kind of stuff. Really, a lot of ego. So I do see that in the market right now with the gold market and the metals market. It's almost kind of like vindication, here's where we're going to be proved right and that kind of stuff. I don't know whether we should really, it's a good idea for us to get sucked into that kind of collective thinking. I mean, honestly, people, let's call a spade, all you YouTubers and anybody, the universe. I remember going through long periods of time in my career where you could not give gold away. You couldn't give it away. You literally couldn't. This reminds me a lot, stock market, what's happening this year, and I've talked a little bit about how I'm sort of thinking that the stock market is entering almost like blow off top phase here this year. It's pretty scary, and the sort of historical comparisons of Japanese stock market and the 1960s stock market. Interestingly enough, Olga's got some interesting studies. Olga, a lot of us on TRI like to follow this one lady on Twitter who does a lot of sort of celestial comparisons and energies in the universe, but that's another conversation for another day. Anyway, the point of the matter here is I do feel that there is a euphoric, almost like collective orgy happening in the gold and metal space right now, and I'm really worried That, of course, this reminds me exactly of the same thing that we saw in Bitcoin in, like, you say, middle of 2017, where if you were a bear or you were expressing caution, and that went on for, God, like 8 or 9 months straight. Remember that Bitfinex guy who just through that entire summer of 2017, just every day was just, I'm getting screwed, it's all a scam, the price is going straight up, it's all, all that, and, and it just went on and on and on and on, and the market kept going higher and higher. I almost feel like we're in that kind of phase in the stock market, and the and I got a funny feeling gold, and that sort of not that it just feels like that. Now that's just opinion. I don't know. We should keep in mind Jupiter Saturn crosses, for those people that like celestial events. Those pretty big Earth history events happened. .com bubble peak was exactly through that. 1980, that sort of cycle panic. In that case, it was interest rates skyrocketing. So a lot of big things happen around these Jupiter-Saturn crosses. And actually, I learned something new. When the dinosaurs were on the Earth, Saturn didn't have rings around it. I thought that was really interesting. So anyway, that's sort of trivia. Shane, did you know that? About Saturn got its rings about 100 million years ago? I thought that was interesting. Anyway, so when we look at this kind of image, especially for the level oneers, I want you to be thinking of gold, historically as sort of last generation's sort of fear proxy. And keep in mind that, in 1980-81, that was the last fear cycle apex. Commodity futures and commodity futures trading was brand new. That was the new sort of hot commodity. How ironic. For that generation. So what would happen if we sort of said, okay, well, gold usually spikes through these long-term demographic cycles, but gold didn't spike? And so the question I pose is, could maybe Bitcoin have eaten gold's lunch this cycle? So this is an interesting study, and we were talking about it in the class today. This is, the gold market from late 70s, early 80s, that big-ass spike through that particular demographic cycle pivot. And, of course, like I just said, Jupiter-Saturn cross. And one would have thought that gold would have acted like this on the next sort of celestial event, but it didn't really happen. Even now, gold's, this is relative to the Dow, it couldn't find any buyers. It's kind of funny, really. You don't want to laugh at gold bugs because, of course, they're incredibly sensitive. And the funny thing is with gold, remember, I was a VSE stockbroker for a long, long time. I used to have lots of penny stock, gold bugs, we used to call them. They'd buy gold or gold stock or whatever, right? And you'd go like, oh my God, gold's down $20 an ounce. And he goes, that's a buy signal. Gotta buy more. So they'll always be bulls. They just will. So bless their hearts. But I thought this was a really interesting comparison as I said, well, what if Bitcoin was part of that equation this cycle around as sort of, the new product? People don't believe in the system. In 1980, you can think, as the baby boomers were growing up, hey, let's go and buy some commodity futures, right? Let's buy some futures options on commodity futures. I don't believe in this US dollar. Gold's going to the moon, right? Kind of idea. Brand new product, very similar to sort of the way the crypto space, back in the early 70s, extremely unregulated. GAN used to trade commodity options back in the 30s and 40s, but totally OTC. Jeez, is this sounding kind of familiar? So anyway, these are the kind of conversations that we were having with the with the students today. So to trying to put yourself in that big picture scenario of money flows and demographic influences and stuff like that. I mean, frankly speaking, I don't know how this is going to end. Nobody does. Nobody can predict the future, but I think the important thing is just to see this sort of the forest through the trees. Keep in mind, this is like, 50 years, And as I said, I was a stockbroker, via penny stocks all through this period. And this was the dot-com bubble peak, of course, the exact opposite, because that's a paper asset and it's a growth asset, and everybody believed in growth, to hell with you commodities. And you couldn't give gold away in this environment. And there was some pretty nasty scandals in the Canadian gold market as well. So, I call up a guy, hey, you want to buy some stock in a gold company? He's like, are you kidding me? It's click, man. Hello? And, live by the sword, die by the sword. The old expression was, how did it go? You kill what you eat and you eat what you kill, right? So you kill nothing, you eat nothing. That's the nasty part of the brokerage business nobody ever talks about. Anyway, point of the matter here is that in fact, on the TRI site today, clearly identify market state. I mean, in the daily videos and stuff, I'm watching for trades in the space. This was really cool. I think I did this in last week, Broiler Chicken Show. And I even made reference to it because I was so damn impressed, because I watch all these videos back afterward in the evening when I'm done with Liam, just to see what I said and did, and if I said something really stupid. So I was watching the video back, and when we did the video, that I guess it wasn't a Broiler Chicken Show because this is stock trading, but anyway, it must have been a daily video. I had simply said that, well, if we can carve out a key reversal here and actually close above these bars, then that actually becomes a pretty big buy signal. And I put tweets out saying that I was hunting shorts in the gold sector, but holy crap, whenever you get bullish key reversals, maybe you better cool your enthusiasm on the short side. And sure enough, no setups came in, and these markets are blasting higher. So, a big part of sort of our jobs as traders is try to identify market state and don't fight it. If anything, I hate to say it, I really kind of remember the day that the crypto bull market died. Can you guys remember that? I remember the exact day. It was the day a gentleman, he went on YouTube and he started crying because he saw a technical level was broken and he knew that was the end of the bull market. Do you guys remember that? What was that guy's name? I want to say Hart. Richard Hart? Does that name sound familiar? Richard Hart, is that right? Yeah, was I close? That was a good testament, because I got to hand it to the guy. He had his TA right. Market came back to 38.2. It failed, and that was the end of the bull. And I remember, like guys like Da Vinci were like, I sold the shit out of Bitcoin on that counter trend rally, right? And hats off to him. Congratulations. So, there were people that were savvy in the market that took advantage of that selling window. In fact, I think I remember Julian. Julian was just selling everything he could at 13 and change when it broke there a year or so ago. And interesting how it rallied just about this last year back into 13 again and ran into resistance, eh? So where am I going with all this? The point here is I don't see any failure here. So I am actually interested in hunting long ideas, and we were passing around stocks in the junior gold space. I sort of put out a challenge. Let's go find some junior miners, a nice list of half-decent fundamental names, and let's go trade the crap out of these things. Because keep in mind, if the big boys are doing this and the broader market and the gold market's pretty uppy, then you can find fortunes can be made in these little junior mining stocks. So I'm sort of thinking, and it's very similar to sort of like Bitcoin. When Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff were rocking and rolling, you'd have little altcoins just go like 10x overnight. And what the heck's going on? So, I think the gold space is kind of in that space. But interestingly enough, I actually think Bitcoin's in that space as well. I have a feeling the whole damn, like I do report on the site. It's funny. I place little bets with people on the site, so I have to keep track of them. I'm kicking Jamie's butt here, but I'm getting my ass kicked by David over here. We talked about January barometer. I don't know whether I talk about this in the Broiler Chicken shows with you guys, but of course we're following this very closely. And this is a pretty damn uppy month, no doubt about it. Obviously it looks like we've got some technical failure here just in the short term. So you can't go straight up forever. I mean, you can see that we jumped out of the gate and we rallied up. We'll probably pull back here a bit and then pivot back into the end of the month. Who knows? But the point here, this is the first day, the first week. Now we're starting to get like the first full month. What is January barometer sort of telling us? Well, it's telling us that, risk on seems to be pretty hot. Actually, it'd be interesting if that was actually right around that Jupiter-Saturn cross, eh? Wouldn't that be sick, Shane? But I wouldn't fight this market on the long side. I'd say pullbacks are buying opportunities. And also, I think I see that in crypto as well. So we'll see. Only time will tell. What's really cool about crypto here, I guess a couple things sort of jump out at me. I was able to find these charts again, so thank you. Universe, I was able to load them up. This is that Philby, and actually I was surprised. I said something about that, and I looked over at YouTube, and he's like, "I'm lurking here, don't say anything stupid," which I thought was hilarious. So, I mean, that's good. But, it's fascinating to see his study. We've sort of kept an eye on his study, and gee whiz. I mean, that's redonkulous. So, traders got to trade. I mean, I suppose if you were a buyer in this reload zone, you're getting paid. Way to go. You can see sort of my wish list, sort of what I would have liked to have happened. But, the market's like, screw you, Brian. I don't care what you want. I'm going to do whatever I want. And get used to it, everyone. In fact, I think I was joking with somebody. Don't get into the habit of predicting the markets. Actually, Grim, in the class today, it was beautiful. He goes, I can't remember the exact line. Murad, are you here? Murad probably remembered the line. It was absolutely perfect what he said to everybody. Oh, no, Murad's not here. I suppose it's getting kind of late for the Europeans. Chris, you were in class today, remember? He goes, can't remember. Something along the lines of, like it's not our job to put tops and bottoms in the market. Yeah, I know, it was a pretty long rant. I'm going to paraphrase here, which I think is smart. What we really want to do is, we want to try and capture that middle part of the move, right? That, like 70-80% in between. I can't remember the reference to that. But, about predicting the markets. It's a mug's game to get into the business of predicting markets, and I see it happen all the time on YouTube. It's a trap that you get sucked into. And I've been playing, and, this is probably, I watched one guy, he's got like thousands and thousands of views on his YouTube video saying, oh, I think this is going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I tell you guys, I've been at this game, 20, 30 years. Never seen anybody be able to predict the market consistently. What I would just simply say is, look, these are my reasons for buying or selling at this level. And if we get to that level, I will take profits and I will get handsomely rewarded for my efforts. If the market moves to that level, the market is telling me that my thesis was wrong and I better get out. So I don't know whether people actually listen to me. Actually, it's interesting. I thought this was fascinating. And actually, I really like this because we're going to go a couple different angles. I think I really like the idea of endorsing mothers of children with autism with special, ASD diagnosis, but special needs, but support for mothers with special needs. So if anybody watching on this YouTube, this is sort of a karmic request I'm going to reverberate out through the universe. Let's see what comes back. We're putting together this webinar, and I'd actually like to contribute a good chunk of whatever revenues this webinar, and throughout the webinar, I'm clearly stating that I'm not in this to make a profit. I mean, I would like the team to do well and continue on. You know my story. But we're going to donate a good chunk of whatever the proceeds are of this to a charity. And I don't know whether this exists in the world, but I think actually it's a bit overdue, and it's kind of like something that kind of goes under the radar screen. It's very difficult to actually get the dollar straight to them funded. But my wife suffered from mental illness, and she had a child, and she always wanted a child, and the child was severely disabled. And I think what I'd really like to try and find, and maybe I have to create it, is almost like an agency or like a group or whatever to support mothers of special needs children that sort of need support and need resources for them to stay sane. And actually, that's just sort of came to me. I was going through this webinar that I'm working on, and that really resonated with me. So, if anybody does know of any kind of organization out there, please post it in the comments. That's something that I think I'd really like to direct some focus towards of this entire project. So I haven't thought about that too much, and of course I'm coming up on anniversaries shortly here. Everybody on the site knows that I'm in a weird funk right now because of it. But anyway, that's a request to the universe. So universe, if you can help me out in that regard, I'd appreciate it. Okay, back to the story. Fascinating to see how we sort of held, Philby's lower line here. And that happened to be in a reload zone. And, interestingly enough, I think I've sort of said this in recent videos. I kind of think that we're in the sort of phase of climbing the wall of worry. And unfortunately, with Bitcoin, we can get extremely sharp and violent moves, which of course freak everybody out, and of course flush out the weak hands, those margin players and stuff. So you have to be cognizant of that. But ironically enough, in this kind of market state, I would actually argue that if you did see a flash crash down into these lows and the lows held on the crash, that's probably actually a buying opportunity. Extremely difficult to do, don't get me wrong. And probably best that we hunt for it through the Tuesday-Wednesday London kill zone, eh, guys? Because they say 80% of all, 70 to 80% of all weekly trends are put in through that window. Anyway, so off the higher time frame, we're holding these sort of fundamental valuation bands. So that's encouraging. Of course, we're coming up to the halvening event at 100 miles an hour. One thing that jumped out at me, I haven't seen this in a while, but do you notice our little NVT indicator is actually starting to flash overbought warnings again? That's a little discouraging. I don't really like that. But interestingly enough, if we think about the halvening event, and I think I have that on the chart, I don't know whether we're going to get some sort of insane, nutso new bull market. Some guy on the internet's calling for $400,000 Bitcoin. Oh, Jesus. We are kind of running out of rally window here. I have noticed in years gone by, and Litecoin did it last year, that the market seems to top about a month or so ahead of the event. So don't be surprised if it's some sort of pop, and then actually it sort of swoons into the actual halvening. I've seen that a million times. I think, we can, just take from this message, especially, and it's tough for people, right? But, reload zones within reload zones, overlapping green boxes, man, they're one hell of a trade location. So I really don't like the idea. And I did take like little shots looking for trend continuation, was proved incorrect very quickly, covered positions. Lower time frame trading, but like higher time frames going short here, I don't think that's a good idea at all. And like I said, dollar cost averagers, this is sort of your window. Hey, we are at or below reload zones, so get in there and do your thing. As I had sort of said there just a few minutes ago, I kind of feel like we're in this sort of climbing the wall of worry scenario here, where we're kind of stair-stepping our way higher. As long as we just keep painting higher lows and higher highs, technically this is a bull. This is a daily chart perspective. I do like using like moving average systems to sort of help you identify trends. So big W's, and we did like inverted head and shoulders, and they painted targets up into mountain man levels and stuff like that. But, really great anecdote of using moving average systems to tell you trend. The only problem with this, of course, is that the higher time frame, like weekly chart, the moving average systems are still bearish. And I think actually in last week's show, I talked about how the 200 SMA, and then if we change this to the weekly chart, and the 30 SMA are almost identical here. Now this is off that weekly basis, so we went doink right up into that and just got smackaroonied. And kind of like you can see off that daily chart, we're in kind of like a moving average sandwich right now. Nom, 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 nom. And this happens to be the 30 and 13, and the 200 is way down here on the weekly. So if we lose this level and we roll over, be careful. And you can also see, weekly basis, technically that is an inside bar. So if we finish this week and we don't break these highs and we roll over and we go through that low, which just so happens to be that weekly 13 EMA, it means there's a lot of open air down here. So, be careful. Is this really the best place to go in and invest in Bitcoins? Remember, green boxes. So, be cognizant of that. Also, too, from a weekly basis, like I said, moving average relationship at absolute best, what we'd really like to see is this thing just goes sideways and then the moving averages turn back to bullish, sort of like back here, and then you can see that kind of move. Woohoo! But, we're in the sandwich right now. Think nom, 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 nom. So top of the sandwich is 30 SMA, and like I said, on the weeklies or on the dailies, it's the 200 SMA. And I've seen the markets play with these levels repeatedly. This might, like on that weekly chart, that might take, this might take a few months to play with this 30 SMA, or months, a few weeks, a few bars to play with this before we actually see resolution, Like up here, right? Bang, bang, bang. The fractal fail signal comes over here. So as we're moving up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks for that fractal top to actually fire. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks for that fractal to fire. So, here we are, 1, 2. If we finish here, beep, we could crap out next week. My hunch is that won't happen, but who knows? That's just my hunch, so what? Market will do any old damn thing it wants. My hunch is it's probably going to play around here for a couple more weeks. And hunch, whatever. I kind of think that we're going to keep working our way higher with the halvening event in front of us, but that's just pure talking out my butt. No setup really there at all. And that's what you're here for, right? You want to sit and listen to me talk out my butt, right? Silly Brian. Off the lower time frames, if we go back to that daily chart, I thought this was really interesting. We had sort of talked recently about lower time frames, how there was a bullish AB equals CD level. And what we noticed recently was we ran up really close to that level and then backed away. And notice, what letter of the alphabet is that? Is that an M? There's actually a good opportunity to see if anybody's actually paying attention on YouTube. What letter of the alphabet? It's I don't think there is a letter of the alphabet that looks like that. But I'd say it's significant FA event. Wouldn't call it butt talk. Okay. So the point here is this an M, right? We know that tops look like M's, right? Cheryl and Scher's Flair. It's Chris Lindmar's special book by Special Kids. Oh, cool. All right. Please share there on Facebook and YouTube and highlight the beauty of special needs kids and families. That's cool. I definitely want to show that, Cheryl. Thank you. All right. Anyway, it sort of got off topic. That's what we call a V-top. It's upside down. That doesn't make any sense, Brian. Right? But that's that's basically if I can draw. Up and down, right? We call that a V-top. So the problem here is that markets don't historically like to V-top or bottom. Notice here we V-bottomed and there had to be some sort of test of the low. And we really didn't know whether this thing was going to dump any lower until it actually come back up through these highs and creates a big ass W. So we V-top. An exact opposite, there's a V-bottom. At the very least, we actually should expect the market to come up into this level. And man, I think, in the past week we sort of talked about this one bar here. There's a whole bunch of trapped bears in here, a whole bunch of trapped bulls. So when the market came back down into this, that gave these guys the opportunity to cover and just get out. I still think that there's a trade that needs to be done up in this wick here that will do the exact opposite. It will release those trapped bulls. And this is what they call an expanding wedge or a megaphone pattern. And this sneaky part about the megaphone is that the top of the megaphone is actually the price objective up here. So, we traded to this once, twice, 3 times, and you can see the market really tried to lose that low, and it just simply ran out of sellers on that event. This isn't necessarily a setup I like to trade because it's very high octane. I mean, it's a trader's gotta trade. But the long and short of it here is hopefully everybody can see this 3-bar pattern, bang, bang, bang. And then this 2-bar pattern, bang, bang. What does that create? And oh gee whiz, the resolution of it takes us back up through moving average resistance. Anybody with me? Have I lost everybody? What the hell is he talking about? Anybody know what this 3-bar pattern, bang, 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 and then this 2-bar pattern, bang, bang, what does this make right here? This is the stuff. Well, I'm going to watch this video, but I better learn something out of this, and I better damn well learn, or, I'm not coming back here ever again. I'm going to downvote. Oh, and we're supposed to say, everybody officially, where's Colleen? Is Colleen here today? We can't ask her to ring Colleen's bell if she's not here. I have to have her consent. There it is. Can we ask them if they want to ring your bell? Left Colleen. Colleen, you better be working on your harmonics manual. So, if you do like this video, if you find any sort of value in what I'm saying, please feel free to hit the... somebody just downvoted us. There you go. Thanks. Appreciate that. Anyway, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring Colleen's bell. Ring my bell. Actually, you know what? We should probably play that song. The problem is YouTube will get all pissy if you play those videos. That would be a good song to play. All right, so back to the story. This is what's called... And actually, I didn't see a single response. Wow, that surprised me. Bang, bang, he shoots me down. Bang, bang. Okay. All right, anyway. This 3-bar pattern is called a fractal. There are some people that want a 5-bar pattern to create a confirmed fractal. I like 3 bars because I like to think of head and shoulders. I like to think of the Canadian flag. You can Google either of those 2 images to try and understand that 3 pivot concept. And as I said, interestingly enough, a move above 13 EMA here actually is a buy signal. So I can understand the setup. It's high octane. It's certainly not for the weak at heart. It's off of the bottom of a megaphone. And I don't know whether we had signs of divergence here. Yeah, you're coming into the face of the lion here. Interesting how OBV is trying to actually W out, though, in the face of that. I don't know whether I really like the setup off the daily chart. I actually think I prefer the setup off a lower time frame. But I can completely understand if somebody took this setup. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And basically, you're just going to buy the fractal here. And maybe what you want to do is let it break out, then off the lower time frames, see if you can hunt some sort of structure Wyckoff check of that breakout level just to confirm that it is for real. And then off that lower time frame buy signal, you enter the trade. That's something you might want to consider. But in essence, it's just basically trading the fractal, and your target is actually a tag of the top of the megaphone. So that's a nice 3.5 to 1 risk reward. So it's not a bad setup. I know lots of traders. In fact, we had one gentleman on the site. I think he's become extremely wealthy since taking the TRI program way back when, 1,000,000 years ago. He exclusively loves these expanding wedge setups, and he would be banging out 4 to 1, 5 to 1, just ridiculous trade wins, and it would be like along these lines. And the irony of it all is the longer that this takes, if you have the balls, what I would suggest you do on something like this is maybe pay yourself a little bit on the way up, then move your stop to scratch on the remaining, right? And then the irony of all of this is that the longer this takes to actually work its way up to this, you can actually, as you're going along, increase your profit objectives as the market's working its way higher and it hasn't tagged that trend line yet. So, but that's a little bit more advanced. For the simple people in this kind of environment, my hunch is, anybody who can actually have the discipline to get in on this kind of trade and manage this. I don't think they're watching me on YouTube. They know what they're doing. It at the very least, paper trade this. See, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try what this crazy guy's saying. So I can completely understand. Like we said, wicks and tails like to be eaten. There's a bunch of trap bulls in there. And there is that 200 SMA. Remember we said on the weekly chart, usually the mark likes to play at these moving averages for a few weeks. It's not like they just zing, it's done. So I could very easily see a nice trade up into here. And interestingly enough, what do you think the odds are, just looking at this range, that these candle body highs up here are a reload short zone? I'd say probably pretty good. So if we go down to maybe like a 4-hour chart or something, you should probably see the trade developing here. So, and actually what was really sick was watching this through here. These 2 bars here, I actually think defined the breakout last night. I don't know whether we want to get into that lower time frame analysis on this YouTube video, but that's what I was posting in the lounge last night. I was sort of walking through the free video, the way that I use RSI to help me gauge what sort of stage the bull or bear market is in. And it was so cool watching that we got a nice 50-line resolution on a second W right on this breakout, meaning get ready, which I thought was cool. But anyway, back to our other conversation. Where are we likely to find resistance come in on this chart? I suppose we could crisp these levels up now that we're on this lower time frame, something along those lines. Could you use that high? I suppose. I'm not going to get into that debate here. But anyway, this simple setup, now you can actually see it a little clearer. You can see that, oh gee whiz, actually that fractal is a big honkin' W. Okay, well now I can sort of see the trade. Maybe I should have tried to snuck in off of this cute little W within the bigger W. W's within W's, we love those. But these would have been, you would have had to been like sharp. A lot of technical indicators all broke out. Like I said, the RSI study broke out. And okay, I guess I better show you that. Where are you, RSI studies? Not that one. There we are. All right, look at that. See, I had it all written out because keep in mind, this is all I do on the site is I just talk this stuff. So, what was really cool, I mean, we had a number of really cool things happen here, but you can see the first W sort of stops the bear slide. Then we start carving out a bigger W here. This second W now comes in on a move through the 50 line. So get ready to rock and roll. And like I said, that was off of that 2-bar, like almost, I don't think I can call it tweezers, but I often see that price action. If anything, take a screenshot of this, because as I was watching this last night, I was like, oh crap, I've seen this before. So can you guys see here how they basically defined a trading range just on these two candles here and here. So I remember watching that, and I actually remember watching the market break out here and then get bitch slapped down. I was like, oh Arthur Hayes. Right? And then they did the same thing the other direction. Arthur Hayes. And they just, I think they went after that liquidity pool. Then I think they tried to go down here, but there was just too many buyers, or maybe they just ran out of sellers. And it painted this funny little candle pattern here. I've seen this happen before, guys, so take a screenshot of that. And then you look down at your indicators and you're like, holy Jesus. So you can see this thing started to resolve here. And you can see OBV's ramping up. And we actually had, please, if you're a female and you're offended by this, don't be. But we affectionately on the site like to say we like double D's. And this is an example. Triggered. Uh-oh. What happened? What does that mean? Triggered. It always scares me when Rizza says that, right? Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Whenever Rizza says something, it's like, uh-oh. The robot's just telling me something went down with Skynet. Oh, shit. This guy's a living computer. It's quite remarkable, really. Anyway. So we had an example here. This is lower time frames, right? This is actually like 4 hours. It's not even that lower. But such a great example of double divergence in MACD. I like to use the histogram. It sort of visually shows me that oomph in the market. And of course, level oneers, you're going to get a big dose of this shortly. And then not only did we have this W, and of course price was making lower lows through this, but then we also had this one too. And then this almost becomes like, think of this as almost like a whole bunch of compressed energy. And the energy is getting compressed, and this is the release of that energy. So really cool to see. And if you can couple things like MACD divergences, and whether you measure your, I like to use the histogram. Notice RSI did not pick up that divergence there, right? But the histogram did. And, you can include things like volume studies. I highly encourage people to include both volume momentum and price momentum in your analysis. So I think of the lower time frames, and this was, I think it was fairly well, seeable. If we just do simple things like 50% levels going back up top, it's interesting how I sort of painted like two head and shoulders patterns here, and I thought this head and shoulders triggered, but I often see this, like 70 or 70. 30, I sure hope it's not been 70 years, but 30 years experience in the market, I do see this happen quite often, where the market will put in a market structure failure, but then you actually, as time goes by, you'll actually see a market structure going the other direction. Well, and in essence, it just simply illustrates that this is one hell of a battle level here. So I don't know. I just penciled this on here. Do we head and shoulders out? Inverse head and shoulders are away here? Possibly. Tough to say. A little reluctant to take this kind of long trade in here. If I got off of this level, okay, I could feel comfortable with that, right? And probably if we could have snuck in off of that, maybe even risked against that low. And then shot for things like 50% rolls. My hunch is that's probably a trader's trade. Let's see. Not even really that attractive, to be honest with you. Probably the trader's trade was this inside bar. In fact, I think I remember, Oscar, was it you and or your brother Daniel? I seem to remember people posting tweets that they were getting interested in the long side off that inside bar there. Anyway, it is what it is. I suppose if you're going to do just 50% roll return to the POC, 1.58 to 1, meh. Not overly impressed with those kind of numbers. I suppose, probably to pay yourself, you're probably going to have to shoot for good old Mountain Man. If we hit Mountain up there, then you get better than 2 to 1. Maybe even gun for like a revisit back up into the top of value up here, like up into there. 78.6, the original inside bar failure from way back when. Horizontal support and resistance, all you level 2ers, you just did this. Hopefully you can see there. This is now going to be up in this area here. That interesting. Look how that high lines up almost perfectly with that inside bar failure low. And I do know that there are people that watch sort of this, like I like to call it the institutional fingerprint, or literally where you can see where the big boys stop the bull. That's their fingerprint. And I do know there are people that are on the net that teach concepts like if the market loses, like, I'm not exactly sure how the terminology goes, but if it loses like 50% of this range, then they'll look to actually try and get short through that order block itself. I don't know. Anyway, I look at this right now. I can very realistically see some serious resistance coming in up here. That's, what is that? That's 89, 83 area, So if you did take that trade and shot for that bad boy, that's better than 3 to 1. I would say you have pretty big, solid kahunas. If you showed me that was your trade setup and you were in that and you're going to live with the results, I could totally respect that. This is probably another example, kind of like higher time frame Bitcoin. If you did sneak your way in off of this trade, don't let a winning trade turn into a losing trade. Probably at this point, whether you do pay yourself a little bit, one of our site, actually our level 1 instructor, he really likes the idea of things like incorporating bot rules into his actual, even things like El Dangonator setups. So things like, if we hit 50% of the anticipated move, then move your stop to scratch. If we hit 66% of the anticipated move, maybe start trailing stops, things like moving averages, 3 high-low method, ATR, stuff like that. So I don't know whether actually we can really, I think you're probably still, I guess I hate to say it, but I think you're kind of still in babysitting mode right now. This candle might just, you don't know. This is crazy crypto, and you know what happens on Sundays, right? Sometimes I'll do these videos up, and then I'll come back from being with my son, and the price chart looks totally different. What the hell happened? So, who knows? If we finish here, I think you're good to go. But if the candle craps out, you could still be in babysitting mode. So I think my feeling is still in babysitting mode. If we can rally, and that's probably like the 50% rule, 50% or 50%, what a coincidence. Yeah, what a coincidence, eh? So if we can get up into this 50% rule, then I like the idea, okay, well, at this point, I'm pretty good. Maybe I'll pay myself a little bit, take a quarter of the trade off, something along those lines. And I'm going to move my stop to scratch on the remaining because I don't want to see a winning trade turn into a losing trade. And I'm just going to gun for letting them have some more up top here. And maybe, I'll hold on to like 5-10% of the trade, keeping my stop at scratch so I don't lose money on the trade, and just see where the hell this thing goes. Because you never know in capitalism. This crazy market could jump $1,000 here in the next 10 minutes. You don't know. That's why I tell people, try and trade setups. Take the guessing out of this and just, hunt things like W's. And when RSIs give you multiple W's and the second W happens to come on 50 lines, sort of vet out your reasons why you're going to act so that when they happen, you act. And you're not like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen here. Should I buy here? I don't know. And that's unfortunately what 99% of the public is. Should I buy Bitcoin here? Is it a good buy? What do you think, Antonio? Should I buy Bitcoin here? Is it a good buy? Maybe I should sell Bitcoin here. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Enough said. I have to say, it's a good looking move here. I'm certainly not going to dog it. And as I sort of said, I do like the idea of this was a V top, so it really should be tested at some point down the road. So that's sort of what I'm seeing here. And actually, really, I wouldn't fight an image like this. This is an incredibly powerful image. Don't fight that. Going in and shorting Bitcoin here, that to me is like just asking for trouble. If you are interested in the short idea, okay, maybe wait for the market to get overbought, wait for it to get up into levels, wait for signs of divergence, wait for signs that the bull or the bear is waking up and the bull's falling asleep. But just going in and just blindly hitting that and just predicting that we go straight down from here, looking at that, I would be like, oh my God, that is asking for trouble. Okay, I think the only other thing I really wanted to just touch on, altcoins, they're doing their thing. I've suggested repeatedly, make sure to follow your altcoin idea versus USD so you can get an idea of whether, aside from Bitcoin, whether your market's actually finding buyers on a sort of a net basis. This is a really interesting one that came up on my screen this morning. Actually, past few days, this Wan Chain. Holy moly, butchered that. My apologies. And W's are W's are W's. If we start to see some acceptance above, there's no reason why I can't be throwing in some stink bids. My hunch is if this thing does pop, then the reload zones are probably going to line up with these candle body lows down the road. So, there are very interesting little names trying to set up right now. Keep your eyes peeled. A lot of these names, of course, have already moved. And the interesting thing about this is, from my perspective, is that, of course, this was in the context of a bear market. So how does the bear market actually turn back to a bull? And we can be like, okay, things are looking pretty good. We got a nice little window here to work with. Ironically enough, usually the moves off the bottoms are extremely violent. But we won't really know whether this thing is actually a bottom. I mean, it's nice to see Bitcoin's got some very good-looking WE action. But a lot of names, Litecoin, is that really a W yet? I don't know. That's a tough one. Dash actually broke its lows from 2019. Is that a W? I don't know. That's a tough one. I had mentioned a couple weeks ago doing these videos that I really like that Tron. Nice little fractal there. What I'd really like to see for Tron now is, can you go and confirm this bigger W? I think we saw ETC was confirming massive longer term W's, which was really good. Right? That'll tell us that the bottom is in. I do find it interesting that literally almost all of these fractal bottoms came in right on Shane's Saturn-Pluto cross. That's freaky. And you can't explain that stuff. If you are playing the junior market, I think it's a good idea to keep an eye on our buddy over there on Binance. And whether we get, sort of that, because keep in mind, the Binance guys, they make an absolute fortune when we go into ICO, token issuance, listing new coins, all right, just becomes orgy central. And really, we can actually, I think we can use the BNB coin because you pay fees with the BNB coin, right? You don't, it's reduced fees or something, so there's incentive to have these and use these things. I think we can use this coin as a proxy of sort of the health of the crypto market. And more importantly, no, that's actually no, that's the wrong statement. I'm going to say the speculative tone of the entire cryptocurrency market. That's probably the better way to say that. So if this thing's going ape shit, then it means that, oh boy, alts are it. It's interesting, on the daily videos and stuff, I like to keep track of the like I have a little chart deck that I show people. I don't know where it is. Oh, FYI, if you have these coins on Poloniex, you better get them off of there by the 30th, or they're going to disappear if anybody even still trades on Polo. I just got that notice, so just an FYI on that. What did I want to show you? Oh yeah, the perp. But actually, it's really cool actually watching all of them. Where's that screen? There it is. These indexes are all trying to bottom. I mean, it's encouraging. Problem is, I don't think that they have W'd yet. I would like to see some sort of floor in this market. Like I said, Jupiter, Saturn, cross, and Saturn, Pluto cross. Maybe this is the pivot. I mean, those are cute little W's, but really, for me to be a believer, I got to see these bigger honking W's come in. And keep in mind, there's a weekly price chart, right? It's going to take that to actually turn those longer term moving averages back to the bull. And then, these screens all start looking green again, which they're not. And then, we're back into sort of, okay, notice, like, look at the turn here on Ethereum, right? You have to wait for that turn. All right, the turn comes in and then, woohoo, bull market. Kind of like that, the RSI going through the 50 line on the second W. What do we want to see that way? Okay, now we're going to see some serious rally, and that's where you guys make your 5x, 10x, and all coins going to the moon and all that kind of stuff, right? So, just patiently waiting. And I think I've said this before, those people that could have, gone in. I've talked to you guys about fractals. They're not nearly as powerful and as strong as things like W's. But nonetheless, hopefully everybody can see there was a bunch of fractal inside bars that fired here that you could have traded. I love to squawk about Shane. Near and dear to my heart. And we even started a Deribit options trading plan. And on this reversal event, we saw reload zones. We're like, okay, we'll go buy some calls. I haven't really done anything with the trade. Just sitting there, just our money's working. So I'm not going to necessarily say that, all right, it's all peaches and cream straight up. Those people that had the balls to step in and take trades off the bottom, okay. This isn't easy. Nothing's guaranteed, but I can definitely see those people that came in. They're getting paid. And like I said there just a moment ago, ideally what we really want to see is we want to see all these moving averages turn back up, long-term, weekly W's, monthly W's, and then we can go back to, all right, cool, we got a bull market to work with. Let's go make some money. Right now, I think it's still like we're bottom fishing. We're trying to find the bottom. And actually, I think that's actually a good analogy because I had some people say, oh, this totally feels like 2017 in crypto. We're getting ready to go. And I don't think so. I think, in my opinion, and actually, that 5-year seasonality chart, mind you, it's going to be all screwed up. So it takes me forever to reset it. But I like to follow like longer term seasonality trades. And I actually really like the idea that crypto and Bitcoin is in like that 2016 scenario. But see, all my charts are all messed up. I don't know which one it is, so it'll take me forever to set all that up. Yeah, something like this. I think, remember we had, last year's lows. In this case, it was just sort of stair step our way higher. This case, we went up and came back down. But I get the kind of feeling we're in this kind of phase right now. So I should probably do up that kind of analysis. Which is cool, because what it could mean is, like I said, I think we're in this phase, like 2016, like in here. Which means then, on balance, Bitcoin should work its way up. I do like the idea of Bitcoin rallying into that election. This happens to be a summer. Maybe Bitcoin rallies into the election this year. Then, we have a bit of a pullback here, and then maybe that sets the stage. Like all these guys, the logarithmic growth guys, Philby, and, I think, what was his name again? Benjamin? I think his name was Benjamin. No. You guys know who this guy is, eh? Anyway, if you see that, I think his name's Benjamin. Anyway. They've sort of been saying, Benjamin Cowan. All right, thank you, Peter. They've been sort of saying that they kind of think like 2021 is the year for Bitcoin to really go absolutely apeshit. And I kind of like that thinking. And, that would be like, 2-3 years after the event. Nobody remembers. I mean, it'd be interesting if I just pulled the audience here. What was the guy's name who ran that BitConnect fraud? Anybody remember what his name is? It'd be just interesting to see how many people, if I asked 2 years ago who that person was, all of you guys, bang, 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 fire out his name. Like if I ask on YouTube, what was the gentleman's name who rage quit and famously put the bottom into Bitcoin price in late 2014, early 2015? You guys remember that? Nope. Okay, well, some of you guys remember that. So that's still fresh enough. We still got to get to the point where you guys completely remember. Does anybody remember who put the panic low dump in Bitcoin price in late 2000? Where is it? Back here? Who remembers that? And I remember the day that happened. I remember watching it. So, we have to get to the point, maybe it takes 3 years, that when I do the YouTube video and I say BitConnect and nobody can remember who that is. I don't know. All right, so I've been talking away here now for about an hour and 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, I like that. Thank you, Grim. Excellent. So, cool. Even inside the TRI site, I'm getting people helping me find resources for charitable organizations. Thanks, Grim. Awesome. Perfect. All right. Okay, yeah, so level oneers, this is your opportunity. Any follow-up questions? I'm going to wind up this conversation here. Level 2. I won't do level 2 questions here today, guys. I don't want to freak people out with horizontal support and resistance on this. Okay, level 1. Let's see what we got here. Level 1. Oh, you know what? It's up in the favorites. Okay, so any follow-up questions? No? How about in the lounge here? Did you guys have anything? Rose is talking about Skynet again. Cool. Okay. Came for the trading, stayed for the music. But we're not allowed to play. We're not allowed to play the music on YouTube while we're recording, or we get into big trouble. Okay, so I don't know. I'll give you 10 seconds. Let's see. I will start the count. If you post a request on YouTube, we'll take a look at it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. They're all going, oh, wait a minute, he's already halfway through the countdown. 5, 4, 3. Oh, there's one. All right, what was that? And actually, that didn't come from YouTube, though. What is this? What do you think of the possibility that Bitcoin goes to 14K and then forms a big ascending triangle for an alt season? Well, I have been thinking, the irony of it all is I've had this chart on here since literally the day the damn market topped. I remember putting this on here forever ago. I have been thinking the whole way along here, this big honking harmonic pattern. It's interesting how we disconnected here. So, and I don't know. I mean, there's some people that are saying, hey, there's one more dump ahead of us. But I guess what I'm thinking, if this see if I can say that. Slow down. If this is the low and we're working our way up and we're not coming back down, let me just see this. Actually, you know what? You just can't even see that. Maybe I've... I just want a clean chart. I don't got any clean charts around here. What's over here? Those are all the algos. Yeah, I guess we'll go over here. One day. And let's go. Alright, so if this is, interestingly enough, 1 low, 2 low, 3 lows, if I start getting more painted lows here, I actually start thinking about bots. So that lets me think of something along the lines of, and I'm just going to eyeball this. It won't be exact. Boom. 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 Something like that. Boom. Oh, hello. What a coincidence. So it looks like we're in the battle zone right now, right? And we've obviously run into a bit of resistance here. Actually, also too, you know what I think this is such a good example of? So I think we're caught in like a moving average wedge here. So there's the top of the moving averages there. And then we have this one here. Remember, we've been talking about this one all summer long. Ay, caramba. Yeah, like that. So actually, I think this is our sort of our price trading range right now, which is scary, right? Because if we lose the lows here, we can start drawing support lines off of the bottom. Again, I'm just going to eyeball this. I don't need to be specific. So, if anything, I think there is probably a pretty good sort of rough guesstimate of what our trading range is for the time being. Something like that. So, well, we resolved this, and I still am not totally convinced that this is turned, but if it has, it has. What I'm worried about, actually, and I don't really like this, is if we rally up into sort of like, top of value against this resistance here, and it gets into the beginning of April, well, that is the Bitcoin halving rally. And then, like I said, about a month ahead of the event, usually that's when the market tops, and then maybe we have to start working our way back down here. Also to notice, interesting how the top of value here right up against these highs is also sort of aligning with that trend line resistance. So if we do think AB equals CD, maybe it's something along the lines of like that. Like I said, I really do like the idea of Bitcoin rallying into this election. I got a funny feeling it's going to be chaos, which really sucks. But that's music to Bitcoin's ears. Bitcoin loves chaos. Everything's hunky-dory, peaches cream. You don't have to worry about your money, man. Just don't worry about it. Bitcoin goes boring. Don't trust the government. It's all a fraud. Tinfoil hats, Bitcoin, woohoo, party. So, yeah. No, that's rhetoric, and I get myself into a lot of trouble for that rhetoric. So, it'd be interesting just to keep this chart on, and let's see who wins the battle. Point here is that, and here's the kick in the pants. We're going to have Bitcoin 15,000, 16,000, 17,000, approaching 18,000, right? It's getting all insane. Who's going to be all excited? Are the institutions going to be ramping up here and loading up? They aren't, right? And of course the public, right? And just sort of feed into that sort of fear orgy, lack of confidence orgy. In fact, what I find really interesting is I was watching all the Star Wars trilogies over the weekend. The local cable thing just kept pounding the movies one after another. So I was like, all right, Star Wars junkie, right? And the whole thing, dark side, light side, right? In a weird sort of way. And it kind of sucks. I mean, I suppose it's sort of a conversation of the millennials, this younger generation, just does not believe in the system anymore. They've been lied to, they've been taken advantage of, and they've given up on trusting, the older generation, which is really sad commentary. But same thing too. That's exactly what's supposed to happen at exactly this point in the cycle. So get ready for some fireworks. You never know how these things ultimately end, and I mean, I don't think anybody could write better fiction than what we have happening in the world today. You just can't do it. I guarantee whatever happens down the road, none of us could sit here and go, well, yeah, actually, I totally predicted all of that. Nobody. Never seen it happen. So, all right, so sort of wind this up. We've been talking recently about inverted head and shoulders off of things like mountain man levels and reload zones here. So it shouldn't surprise us that the market's rallied. We're coming up into, actually where the market originally topped, and actually a cute little recent top. I actually, kind of that squiggly line kind of theory thinking. Can you guys kind of see this, this like head and shoulders pattern here? So shoulder, neckline, head, neckline, shoulder, breakout. So I very much do see sort of a very fractally behavior here. It doesn't surprise me. 25 here is going to basically be our resolution level. Yes, this market has resolved higher, away we go. That doesn't surprise me at all. In essence, if we actually W out off of this recent peak high, what it means is we've accepted above value high here. You can make the argument right now the market is sitting basically at the POC. This is where everybody on the street is either long or short. So welcome to the club. If you put on a Bitcoin position right now, you are basically in the market where everybody else is too. Way to go. Including shorts. That's the irony of it all, both longs and shorts. Mr. Hoagland, of course, he'd like to see us selling above value, and he'd like to see us buying below value. But just because that's where he wants to buy, that doesn't necessarily mean market has to go there. So, climbing the wall of worry, working our way up here. As I had sort of said, this is a pretty darn important level here off of lower time frames. This is a V top, tons of trap bears. There's also reload short zones, and off lower time frames. Makes sense that there's going to be a fight here. There was also AB equals CDs that were sort of unresolved. So don't be surprised to see the market back up top here. And ironically enough, for sort of, people that are like, Brian, I don't want to chase the market. I just want to work bids. Ironically enough, I would actually still say, well, concentrate on reload zones down below. I don't know whether we're going to get back there or not. But, if I'm a cheap ass and I want to try and buy relatively low risk windows, ironically enough, all that is just a revisit of the original bottom. And, you can actually see this head and shoulders, just like I was talking about there, right? So, all right. Hope that helps. I really wanted to make sure that the level oneers understood that whole sort of demographics and money flows and where sort of cryptocurrencies fit in the big picture. We also wanted to give you a whole bunch of sentiment indicators, but I noticed when we shared this chart that's exactly what loaded up, was this exact chart. And like if I move this over here now, when everybody loads this up, the chart's going to look exactly like this, and you can't expand these charts. So that's kind of a brain flub on my part, all level oneers. My apologies. On your group tutorial document, I did go in and put all the individual symbols for these, but some of them operate off moving averages and stuff. So, through the week, I'll go in and sort of help through your Q&A document to clean that up a little bit. My apologies. But, some really interesting anecdotal conversations here. First and foremost, and I think we've kind of seen this recently, I think gold is going to play a bit of catch up here. So just classic gold versus Dow. The gold market is looking pretty strong. So that's sort of like fear proxy in the market. Market is not happy right now. A little bit dangerous, really, the way that they run the stock prices up here. The one thing I really wanted you guys to see out of this week was the volatility index. Because interestingly enough, and we do talk about this on the site quite a bit. It's funny how when you don't talk about it every day, it sort of slips by. But I'm always a huge fan, if I can somehow, if I'm going to buy my put options. And in the risk management module, you're going to have to go and shop for insurance policy put options. So, it's pretty simple symbol, VIX. And then you just overlay SPY, or like the S&P 500 here. But, it really shouldn't surprise us to see we get down below. And how low did we get here? 11.75. So we never did get to single digits. But if you ever get down into that low sort of teens area, look out. So not really a big surprise that the stock market actually, and, what letter of the alphabet do we see there? So, if you don't have it now, I'm just going to post this chart in the lounge. And I think, I think I gave it to you, but in the classroom, I'll post it there in the classroom. And then I'll also post it in the lounge here. Really good application of the VIX there. That's the kind of stuff that I need you guys to sort of, the cool thing is check this out, right? We go big picture, zoom out. And you can see what volatility index does when all hell breaks loose and recessions and all that. But you can see market dump, VIX peak. Market dump, VIX peak. Right? Market dump, VIX peak. Small dump, little VIX peak. Big dump, but interestingly enough, lower volatility peak. And really the bottom line here is to actually use this to make money from trading, which, I'm not going to say it's easy, but the way you use this is when the VIX gets down into these low single digits, that's when you got to start paying attention and hunting for your trade setups. So it doesn't really surprise me that when the VIX did get down against these lows, filled in these gaps, that's when we started seeing some really, and I think I showed you guys earlier, right? That's a pretty well-defined failure up there on SPY. So. And if anything, what you need to see now, and what I want you to watch over the coming weeks, because I do expect that the stock market's going to go into a bit of a soft period, is let's watch what this volatility index does over the next couple months. Now, notice they also did leave a little bit of a gap. So they're basically said with this gap, I'll be back. So stock market's not done by any means. But, the Bears got the ball for the time being. Let's see if they start structurally breaking this thing out and painting higher lows and higher highs. And that might just very well change sort of market state for the broader stock market and the risk market. So, and actually, it'd be really cool is do this study. You can go on TradingView and you can type in things like VIX for the oil market. And now I'm totally off topic here. Can never remember what it is. I think it's VIX. Well, see? No, that's Canada. Oil. Oh. Look at this. You can get VIX indexes almost everything. But of course, the one market I want, I don't see it. Anyway, I know that the symbol's around here somewhere. There we are. WTI crude. No, that's not it. Anyway, so we just saw crude market come off violently. So it'd actually be really interesting to see what the crude volatility index is. For some reason, I just can't remember it off the top of my head. Drive me nuts. Okay, did anybody ask for anything in particular over there? M Crypto M, did that sort of help answer that question? That sure was a big long-winded answer for you there, eh? 20 minutes later, what was the question again? I hope so. VIA, BTC, oh boy. Actually, I think VIA is getting booted off of Poloniex, so that might explain some of the weakness here just recently. Actually, I was looking at this YChan versus Bitcoin in the lounge this morning. So, of course, we don't chase. So if you're going to work bids, there's some cool levels on that WAM. We'll finish off today. Just quick boo and totally out of the blue. VIA. So, I don't know whether they're still in the same business line that they used to be. I can't comment on that. So, there was somebody on the site that was interested in this name, and I just said, okay, just make, this is a really good example of rational analysis. Do you know what you're getting involved in here? This is kind of like somebody coming in and buying Verge. Do you know what these business model is? I don't know whether finding out the business model and the history of the coin actually changed this person's mind. It might not have. No, I don't give a shit. But it's a good idea. This is a really good example where, it's worthwhile doing a little bit of FA and just, understanding what it is you're buying. As I had sort of said before, I'm looking at the Binance name. Could we see problems? Because, look at that. It's not even on Poloniex anymore here. But I did see a notice that said that they were booting VIA off of Poloniex. I don't know whether it makes a difference or not. But just be aware of that. The interesting thing about speculation in the market and what does actually, this is a good question we had for the level oneers. What does technical analysis do? Is it some sort of magic genie that if you rub it the right way and technical analysis is going to deem your asset a bull? Not really. All technical analysis really should do is just sort of identify levels. And if we understand the way the market works, the dynamic of who puts tops and bottoms in the market, then technical analysis is nothing more than just trying to help us understand where the bigger players have put pivots in the market. And really, as risk takers, all we want to do is just try and sneak our way in where they're in. Oh, that's interesting, Lucas. You could make the argument, and that, I won't open the can of worms of this current virus, but please, people, I did this for the site the other day. In 2004, did anything happen there, Lucas, in the world? It's interesting that you make reference to SARS and the epidemic, and you're referencing 2003. Did anything happen in 2004 that makes these flu epidemic deaths look almost laughable? And that's the irony of it all. Please, everybody, understand, when you get sucked into this media frenzy about these flu outbreaks, you are getting... You're being played. Remember, especially these news outlets, they only get paid by how many viewers they have. So, they got to sell Tide laundry detergent. So if they hype you up and they freak you out and, hey, beat me, you better stay tuned for this special report brought to you by the good people at Procter & Gamble. just try and put all of that flu stuff into context. I think the numbers, and I see nobody on YouTube has made reference to this. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, of all the fucking days for it to happen. I mean, just an absolute startling world event. And I mean, just a staggering amount of people died. And yet, nobody really talks too much about that. We're all obsessed. SARS, do you know how many people died from that SARS? It's not a hell of a lot. So if anything, I was putting tweets out earlier in the week sort of saying, there might actually even be a way to play this and actually make some money, which of course is very politically incorrect. But please understand the context. I mean, yeah, don't go out kissing everybody who gets off an airplane. That's probably not a good idea. But if anything, I worry with these flu outbreaks and stuff that it's a lot of media hype. So I'll just leave it at that. And of course, I'm going to get a lot of hate over that. My apologies ahead of time. So the point here is, on this chart, the market has actually identified some levels where, if the market trades down to that level, somebody's like, you know what? No. Remember, who asked Zoc NXX? No idea how you pronounce that. All right. Did you ever watch the videos where I go, no, 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 no? Well, that's kind of what traders do, is they try to identify those no levels, and they try to sneak in, and they say, okay, well, if the no level is broken, I'll get the fuck out. So I think when you look at this image, you got a pretty good no level. Right? Can you see it? Zocknix? That to me looks like a pretty big no level, eh? And what's really interesting about this is, notice, when price actually gets down to this level, nobody's interested in doing any business. Doesn't that seem kind of odd? Everybody's doing business all through here. But when price gets down into here and all hell's about to break loose, everything just dries up. It's fascinating, eh? So, I mean, if you're a risk taker, you want to try and identify levels at which, you can try and sneak your way in. And the risk window is relatively limited. Well, that's not a bad way to, look at this. You can see, though, remember, remember, this is venture capital. The lower market cap you go, and I'm looking at Trex, too, which is, how dare I be on Trex? What the fuck? Somebody slap that guy. There we are. There's Binance. Could you see some fuckery around these levels? Sure. But it's interesting how the volume profile down at that level is nothing. So what that tells me is this is like somebody, panic dumped, hit the bid, liquidate, just get me out. And then the order book just dried up, and they're just like, well, okay, well, I don't want to take zero, so fine, fuck it. Yeah, Andre, but anyway. I tell you, this crypto adventure, it sure has been a fun ride. I sure am glad I took a bunch of money out up at the top of the market. I'll tell you that much, bike crackers. It's never a dull moment in this crazy space. I'll tell you that much. So, is there anything that's going on down around the bottom end of the range that might catch our attention? I don't know whether you're familiar with candlestick patterns there, Zocknix. But actually, this is a pretty powerful 2-bar pattern right here that I see happen a lot on venture capital stocks and venture capital names that really usually typically marks a bottom. All right, we call this a railroad tracks, where you get a big hard down close, right? And it closes right at the low. Fuck you. This video is not meant for children. Hit the like button, subscribe, and ring Colleen's bell, please. Then the market, finishes, beep, done, right? And there's just no more sellers. There's just nothing. Then the market starts to work its way right back up, and it goes right back up to that previous range, and then just finishes there. So this is created, think of it, this is kind of like iffy. You could think of like, a brick wall. This is like a paper wall. That's a brick wall. So this is a pretty darn powerful message, right? I mean, seriously, everybody, take a screenshot. I wanna get something for free out of this clown, and so I feel like I won. And fuck you. Now I'm swearing. I gotta wind this video up. Sorry, everybody. So, we've got this big horizontal support and resistance level, that na level. We've got a really interesting railroad tracks pattern that's coming up pretty close to that level. Are we kind of identifying a risk window that, hey, you know what? I could take a shot here. There's some anecdotal evidence of bottoms, and I could risk to a nice little FU against that big na level. So I've got an interesting window to work with now here. And now really you're asking yourself, again, technical analysis, what the hell is it for? If this thing actually is for real, if it really is a bull, if it's not all bullshit, if there's actually something to this story, where could it go? And the cool part about this kind of technical analysis is we're just simply getting in touch with very, very basics of the way the universe is built. They're like basic laws that have to happen, and Andre already knows the answer. That's the kick in the pants about this. When you watch GAN, I put out a tweet. It was so funny. I put out a tweet about, what was it? It was about 6-8 months ago when Bitcoin was running up to 12, 13,000 or so. And I put out a tweet showing a 50% rule move to the downside in about 50% of the time that it took to have the rally to the upside. And it was so cute. Somebody out on Twitter goes, I thought this was laughable when I saw this chart. And then I looked at who published it, which I thought was cool. That really touched me. If whoever said that to my tweet, that really touched my heart. But anyway. You're just, the longer you play at this game, you're just going to understand that the 50% rule is just, it's the weird sort of the way the universe is built. So I'm not really expecting moves to new highs. And I never suggest people when they, take trades kind of idea that you have the expectation that your asset's going to go to a new high, because I think that's just unrealistic. I do like the idea of just very simple technical levels that are just based on sort of just Mother Nature. So believe it or not, call me crazy, I really don't think a move up into this 12,760 area is totally out of the question. And because these numbers are just so ridiculously compelling, this is actually a scenario where I really like that sort of nanny nibbles approach. I mean, look at these numbers. This is ridiculous. 43-1 risk reward. If you have to take some heat here and let them just fuck around with this for a while, I don't really mind that. You want to take the trade and just risk against these lows? The trader's got to trade, and if this fails, then I'll just keep hunting the trades. Okay, fine. That way you can actually take a little bit bigger risk. Totally fine. But, man, these numbers, they get so compelling that you're almost kind of like, you know what? I just want to pick up a little bit of this, throw it in the cupboard, and forget about it. And you maybe put an alert on TradingView if it gets up into this wick. Somebody poke me, because these numbers are just getting absolutely insanely ridiculous. So yeah, I like the idea. I like the idea from both a trading perspective and little old lady nanny nibble perspective. All right, and I think on that note, why don't we wind it up? I've been barking away here for about an hour or two. Hope Level 1ers had a good experience here today. Thank you very much, Universe, for giving me this opportunity to even do this. I really have to say a big thank you, Universe. So I hope you guys got some value out of all this experience. I have to say, going through the whole building the webinar idea, I actually do see the value in our program now. Because it's one thing for a guy like me here just to go, okay, now everybody trade railroad tracks. Okay, you now know how to trade candlestick patterns, go. It's quite another thing to actually have it like framed in an educational setting where step by step, and you're quizzed and you're final examined, and you have weekly group sessions with like 2 or 3 support people, and you just, you're blanketed in support. So ironically enough, when I first started this education program, I didn't actually see that side of this, but going through building this webinar, I actually see even more value in our program. As I said, thank you so much, Universe, for giving me the opportunity to do this. My whole job here is to try and make a positive difference in this world. I think the people at TRI have a great heart. We pride ourselves on our community. PMA for the win. 1 + 1 = 3. And even today, one of our site members spent time over the past couple of days putting together a nice little junior gold stock list for us to go and rape this gold market while it's going crazy here to the upside. So thank you very much, site members. Appreciate it. And of course, I'm speaking figuratively. All right, everybody. Hit that like button. Smash that subscribe button. Ring Colleen's bell. Have yourselves a great day. All the best. And bye for now.